talk about a couple of different things. Mostly sustainable farming and the stuff that we're doing out at our farm, and how we got into it. But one of the things that has been a driving force is some of the things going on in the food industry. I'm going to try not to belabor all of these points, but up until 2002, the definition of organic food in the grocery store was that nothing had been added to it after it was killed. You could feed it anything, treat it any way you wanted, do anything to it. You just couldn't add water, salt, thickeners, flavors, anything else, and it was considered organic. In 2002, they actually tightened up the law, which was too bad because the big food industry got in with the government and made regulations that they could live with. So when you go to the grocery store and you buy organic things, you're not necessarily getting the same thing that you get when you buy it from your local farm. But they did tighten it up, and they did some important things. You're not allowed to feed animals to animals anymore. The hardest part for us is that they say you have to have 100% non-GMO feed for your animals to be considered organic. That's really tough because non-GMO feed costs about 4 times as much as any other feed. And the last numbers that I heard were about a month ago. And as of a month ago, 93% of the wheat in this country was a genetically modified organism, and 87% of the corn raised in this country was genetically modified organisms. So it's very hard to find non-GMO feed if you're not one of the big boys. But they took away antibiotics, they took away hormones, and they said they had to have access to pasture. Now this is where they started cheating in the first place. They would have chickens, and there would be big, a room larger than this with hundreds of chickens running around on the floor, and there'd be a little 3-by-3 foot door cut in the side of the wall that led outside. And when you went outside, there'd be some grass out there and a fence, but chickens are called chicken because we make fun of people who are chicken because they're afraid. And chickens are afraid of everything. Chickens are afraid of sunshine. If they've not seen sunshine, they don't know what it is, and it scares the hell out of them. One of the funniest things I remember when we first started getting chicks, we would raise them in our basement to get delivered. We had bins that we put them in, and initially they couldn't do anything except run around the bottom of the bin, and then they could hop up onto a little perch that I had built for them in there, nothing like what Dr. Randolph built. Something that a chicken can crap on. And then they get big enough to actually fly up and sit on the edge of the bin, which was always exciting. And I'll never forget the first day I saw a chicken jump off the edge of the bin, and he hits the floor in my basement and does this. Because it's a new universe. You got no idea what to do. You don't have to chase him, go pick him up, put him back in the bin. He's not going anywhere. And the chickens won't go outside. If you don't make them go outside, they won't go outside. Now they've recently come back and said that raising animals to be considered access to pasture have to spend at least 120 days a year outside. So they do have to spend 4 months outside during the season. They have to get at least 30% of their food wandering around out in the universe somewhere. So they've made the rules a little better. Our inspiration, after I ended up buying the farm, I'm not going to bore you with that long story. It's a book called The Omnivore's Dilemma, and in it, if you have not read this book, this is one of the best reads available.
It's his birthday today, too.
Is it really?
It is.
Oh, that's great. Michael Pollan or Joel Selleck?
Michael Pollan.
Michael Pollan wrote a great book about, it's not so much about the food industry, there's a lot in there about the food industry, but it's about how to decide what you're going to eat, and about him getting his own food and making his own food. And a lot of what he falls back on is this guy, Joel Selleck, who's a farmer out in Swope, Virginia, out by Stanton, not Staunton, Stanton, they'll correct you if you say it wrong. And Joel is a pretty amazing guy. I've been out to his farm a couple of times, and we try to pattern a lot of what we do after what he has done. Now, you say, what's amazing about a farmer? One thing is, the guy went to college. He went to college, he got a literature degree, and he was actually working on a newspaper, writing for a little small town newspaper, when his daddy called him and asked him to come back and help with the farm. And he's a 5th or 6th generation farmer, so he was one of the first ones to actually go to school, but he's an educated man. When they started doing some of the things that they're doing and they became successful at it, he goes out speaking, and he's not only a down in the dirt, this is how you do it farmer, but he talked to it, and he's interesting. And he writes books. He's up to 35 or 36 books now that he's written, several of which I've read, but not all of them because I can't read them as fast as he can write them. But he's a very educated guy, he's very funny. But the thing that makes me respect him, the thing that got my attention was, if you look in the state of Virginia, with average pasture, an average farmer in an average pasture can get 100 cow days per year, according to Virginia Tech. That means you can have one cow grazing on that acre for 100 days in a year. Meaning if you want to keep a cow around all year long, you got to have 3.6 acres per cow. Joel Salatin out at his place gets 435 cow days per acre on his farm. He doesn't use any fertilizer. He doesn't do anything special. He does it all naturally. He studied how animals act in nature. And one of the things that we do is try and let all our animals be natural. But in nature, he said, a cow is a grazing animal. It's a herd animal. They come along and they graze on tall grass. And they mow the grass down. And if you watch those cows, after a while, once they got the grass down, birds come in behind them. And the birds come in, and the birds don't like the tall grass, the birds like the short grass. So the birds will get down in the short grass behind the cows and fertilize all that area. Plus they pick up all the cow dung and they grab all the maggots out of the cow dung because that's what birds really like. Keeps all the flies down, keeps the insects down. In the wintertime, he didn't like the fact that his cows were out on the field, dropping on the field, and the stuff would freeze solid. And if it ever thawed out enough, it would just run off the frozen ground. So he puts his cows in barns in the wintertime. He sprinkles corn in around the straw, around their feet. They crap all over the straw, and they crap all over the corn. And the corn ferments in there. And all winter long, he just keeps raising the feeders up because the level of manure gets higher and higher in the barn all winter long. And in the springtime, he lets the cows out and he puts pigs in there. And the pigs love that fermented corn. They just go crazy. So the pigs will turn hundreds of tons of cow crap into 20 or 30 tons of pig crap. Much easier to shovel up, throw into a manure spreader, take out, put on your fields at the time of year when it needs it the most, and when it's actually going to be able to soak in and do some good. So the guy is a genius. He's really interesting to watch and talk about it out there a couple of times. Things that we like, the animals out on our farm, we don't use any hormones, we don't use any antibiotics, we don't use any fertilizer, we don't use any pesticides. I'm not as good as he is. We don't get our animals rotated around us, but we're trying. He's got lots of interns, and I don't have the help that he's got. I do like his idea of letting the animals be animals. So everything that we're raising out on the farm that we're going to eat, we let live the way it's supposed to live until it gets eaten. Now, they're not all, all animals are not created equal. They don't all get the same thing, but they all get treated as nice as I can treat them. We like everything to be free range. It doesn't mean everything can go everywhere. One day I had some cows out, and we were driving around the farms around ours looking for my wayward cows, and drove in this guy's driveway with my wife, and she says, "Oh, look out there. The pigs are out there in the field, and there's a turkey wandering with the pigs, and there's chickens out there mingling with the pigs, and this is like the Garden of Eden. This is what I want our farm to be like. All the animals living together in perfect harmony." Right. So I'm talking to the farmer, I said, you really haven't helped me out here. You got all these things mixed out there in the fields, and my wife just thinks this is the way it's supposed to be, and no, you're killing me. He said, yeah, he says, I gotta go get them chickens out of there. I said, well, why? He says, well, you see the way that pig's looking at it? Says that pig rolls over on top of that chicken, it won't last long. Pigs love chicken. I can't let them all be free range together because they will eat each other. Friday we had 6 new piglets. There were probably 7, but Dad ate one. That's what pigs do. They will cannibalize each other. So we love things to be free range. We love things to be natural. We love everything to be the way it's supposed to be. But not all of the animals are quite as magnificent as human beings, and not as benevolent as human beings. They will do things that we wouldn't necessarily think about doing. One of the other things that we do is clean processing. So cows and pigs I'm not allowed to process. The laws are such that I can process those myself if I want to eat them personally, but nobody else can have any. But the birds, I can process 20,000 birds a year, chickens, turkeys, by hand, and we do that out at the farm. We've got a processing area where we do the whole thing, package it up, stick it in the freezer. But it's nice because when you do it by hand, you can do it very clean. There's not much spillage or any spillage, and I don't have to run all these products through a couple of chlorine baths like they do over at Tyson so that you can actually have it at the grocery store. We're also trying to spread out, create some biodiversity and have some different breeds of animals. This is my bull. This is Storm. Storm is a Romanola, purebred Romanola bull from Tuscany. I didn't bring him from Tuscany, I brought him from Tennessee. As far as I know, I have the only breeding pair of Romanola cows in the state of Virginia. There are, last I heard, 17 breeders in the United States. I was number 17. I don't know if they've added any in the last couple of years. They have meetings, but you know, the Romanola Society meeting in Pulaski, Oklahoma is not exactly at the top of my travel list. But this is something new we're trying because several people have told me that this is the best beef they ever ate. And if this is the best beef that they ever ate, then I'm going to have some out of my farm. These are a couple of his progeny. Those are their mothers. I am hoping to have one of these this spring to eat. These are food. One of my ideals with all this biodiversity, we love to have people come out and visit. You come out and visit the farm, we'll take your kids out there, we'll show them the animals. I want to be like a zoo. I want it to be a place where you can come, see interesting animals, interact with the animals, hold them, play with them, and then taste them if you like. We also have some purebred Angus cows out there, and these are the white face. Those are called Baldies. It's an Angus Hereford mix. They're actually delicious as well. When you mix the 2 meats together, you get the mixing of the genetics. I think it tastes better than the Angus, but they're all good. These are how we get the little baby chicks. They come in the mail, U.S. Postal Service, 1 day old. They're born, they get stuck in a box with 49 of their best friends and shipped to my house. At the post office, they're never happy because they're live, and people at the post office don't like that. Then somebody has to take them out of the box and dip each one of their beaks into the water because they aren't born knowing how to drink. And put their beak down in the water to teach them what it's like, and then they'll start drinking and survive. These little baby chicks are pretty amazing. They're born, but they can go 3 days, 72 hours with no food and water. They are born ready to go for 72 hours before they start to eat. It's always been incredible to me that they come in the mail, but they do fine. That's my wife, holding a couple of her prizes. When you raise them up by hand, the first 50 or 100, we brought them home, we raised them up, she played with them every day. We've got several hundred of them out there now, they don't all get played with. The ones that are handled a lot from the time they're born are very friendly, they come right up to you. I've gone in to feed, had a chicken sitting on top of my head, other than this one, because they will just fly up there and sit, knowing that you're coming in to bring them some feed. This is one of my hen houses. Dr. Randolph says that he goes into his shop and things just come to him. I go in my shop and things come to me, but it looks like that, not the pictures that he's showing. I like to go online and research what hen houses are supposed to look like, but all of mine are built on trailer frames. You see the wheels there, so we can tow them around through the fields so the chickens will do what I want the chickens to do and fertilize my grass and make everything grow better. We also have about 15 or 18 different breeds of chicken out there. Anybody who's bought any of my eggs knows that they come as brown and white, blue and green and speckled and pink and chocolate colored, because each one of these breeds lays a different color egg. I think they make a real pretty herd out there when they all look different. They're not all the same. Joel Salatin, his are all one breed because it's a little more efficient. The ones you get in the grocery store, most of them are all white, because the white egg layers lay more eggs per ounce of chicken feed that you feed them. They do a great job, but they do look real nice. That's a good part of it for me. So we get all variety of eggs. That's my little puppy Max. He got found one day in the road out by the farm, and one of my dogs had just died. So neighbor brought him over, thought he needed a home. That's him interacting with his first chicken. Neither one of them are sure if they're supposed to be together. Turns out Max doesn't like birds very much. He doesn't look at them anymore, just barks and makes them fly away. This is one of our new puppies, Maya. She and her big brother, Indy, are half Great Pyrenees and half Black Lab. They guard the farm at night. They sleep outside, they're on the porch. They're huge, probably 120, 130 pound dogs that are big bundles of love. They will knock you down trying to kiss you, play with you, run over you. They're big, wet, stinky, and great to have around. This is how we keep the meat chickens, although I'm starting to get away from this. This is one of Joel Salatin's designs. The problem with these meat chickens is that they go from that cute little yellow fluffy thing at 1 day old to big enough to put in a pot between 5 and 10 pounds in 8 weeks. And they grow so fast that their legs can't keep up. So you have to be really careful, especially in the summertime, that they don't get more than 10 or 12 feet away from their food and water, because they literally are so fat they won't be able to get back, and they'll either starve to death or die of dehydration. They're also very easy to catch when it comes time to follow a little bit. He's a fat old man can walk around. So we keep them semi-confined right now, although I'm working on different ways of trying to spread feeders out so I can have them out in a bigger field and a little more open than they are. These are some of our land hens. This is what we call the winter range. You can't see it, but this is out the back door of the barn. Right now it's a little too cold for them to lay eggs outside, and the stress of the cold cuts their egg laying back to almost nothing. So we take them into a barn. It's got a big open area with a bunch of perches in it, and they get food and they get water, and they're very happy. But if the day gets nice, we've got fencing outside the barn. We'll just open the doors, and they'll all stand and stare at it, just like I told them to do. Big barns. We have to go inside and shoot them outside. And once they get out there, then they love it, because they recognize it, they know what it is, and they go out and have fun in the barnyard. This is right next to that on the other side. These are our first couple of pigs. These were Hampshire, Yorkshire mix. They were delicious. This is one of our new projects. These are Klaussner Old Spots. It's another rare breed that we're trying to bring back. This was, for about 100 or 150 years, the only pork allowed to be served to the royal family. And then some laws changed in England, and some breeding patterns changed, and all of a sudden these almost went extinct. But if you look at these, they're crazy pigs, because their ears flop right up in front of their eyes, as opposed to these other ones. You see their ears stand up. In Klaussner Old Spots, you can't even tell if they're looking at you or not, because the ears are always flopped down in front of their face. And they're spotted, and we have 2 breeding sows that registered, and we're now official breeders of Klaussner Old Spot as well. They're also supposed to be delicious, but I haven't eaten one of these yet either. Although we did have 6 new piglets on Friday and 6 on Monday, 1 from each of the sows. So probably sometime in the summertime we'll be tasting some of these. Again, David Randolph builds furniture, I build chicken coops. I have to keep reminding myself and those working with me that it's just a chicken coop. It doesn't have to be square, parts don't have to fit. If it's not quite right, bang it with a hammer, it'll get it. But the first one that you looked at was that big solid white siding all around it. That was my first effort at a chicken coop, and my thought was, I don't want anything to get in here and get my chickens. And so the guy I was working with, when we got done, I mean, everything was covered. There was not a crack. It didn't have chicken wire around it or under it or over it or something so that nothing could get in there. And my friend made the comment that this was tighter than a nun's underwear. Also, turned out you don't have to do that because nothing will get into the coop and get them. So that all the other coops have been these big airy things with lots of perches inside because that's what the birds like. They want someplace to sit. They want to get up inside. They want to sit higher than the guy next to them, just like everybody here always wants one chair higher. But you know it rolls downhill. This is one of the visitors that we've had out on the farm. I can't even remember whose kid she is. Anybody in here recognize this kid? They play with the chickens, they hold the chickens, they go collect eggs. They go out and we've got some horses out there. They get to see all the animals, feed all the animals, and run around with them. And then it's too bad the lights are up because there's a very nice sunset right there behind my nasty old beat up barn. It's a nice picture. No, it's really it's in worse shape than even he would imagine. We are on the web. If somebody wants to go look us up, there's www.swartzfarm.com. There's some other pictures there. We're on Facebook. Saturday morning at the South of James Market, I'll make my plug. Forest Hill Park, Forest Hill Avenue, and 42nd Street. Part of the Grow RPA. There's 110 vendors out there at the park on any given Saturday. It's a producers only market with one exception. There's a seafood guy who actually buys the seafood from somebody else and brings it in. Everybody else that sells anything in that market made it themselves and has to have produced it themselves, and they're not allowed to bring it to the market. But it's a pretty interesting place. It's a fun spot on a Saturday morning, and I invite you to give it a try.
But you better